What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Sorry I haven't gotten one out to you in over 2 weeks now, but the topic of today's video is going to be the CFI stage at ATP. I'm going to basically break down what I've been doing for the past 2 to 3 weeks. I'm currently endorsed to take my CFI Checkride, and hopefully you can get a glimpse into what it takes to become a flight instructor and what the training entails. It's a little bit different than some of those other certificates. So here we go. Okay, so first off, what exactly is a CFI stage? Well, up to this date in my flight training, it's all been about making sure I'm a good pilot, making sure I can fly the airplane, I know the rules, and everything like that. The certified flight instructor stage is now, it's all about, do you know these things good enough to go ahead and teach someone? Do you know how to get someone that has no experience in aviation and you can put them in an airplane and you're going to be not only safe, but you're also going to be skilled and able to actually teach that individual how to fly an airplane. So it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different of an attack towards studying and everything like that. And for those of you who don't know, which I'm sure most of you do, ATP is a very, very fast track program. It's an accelerated program. So this has been by far the most intense, but I would say also the most rewarding part of the program. We showed up day one, and after we did our Zoom classes. We did 1 week of Zoom classes, and then we showed up day one in person. And that day one, they told us that they expect us to be at the training center 8 hours a day, 7 days a week until we are endorsed for our CFI Checkride. So do with that what you will. It's definitely been very intense. But before we move on, I just want to say a big thanks to airplaceusa.com for sponsoring this video. If you guys aren't familiar with Airplace, what they do is they offer affordable monthly headset rentals. So if you're a student pilot or you're looking to upgrade your headset without breaking the bank, you can go onto Airplace and they have two options for you. You can either rent to own a headset where you pay monthly for so many months and then you actually own the headset, or you just rent month to month and you're not committed for any certain period of time and it's free to cancel. So you can go online. They have a big variety of different headsets you can choose from. But yeah, that's the best part. You can literally cancel it whenever. So go ahead and click on the link in the description and check out their website, and let's get back to it. And for those of you who are new to aviation and you're curious why you need this certified flight instructor certificate, it's not a necessity to be an airline pilot, and you definitely don't need it if you want to go fly in the corporate world. The reason why a lot of people will get this certificate is because it looks good on your resume, you learn a lot. When you have to teach something, you really have to know it well. And it also opens doors for other jobs, such as flight instructing. With the current industry right now, if you don't have your CFI certificate and you're a low-time commercial pilot, it's going to be pretty hard to find a job unless you have a connection in the aviation industry. So I think it's a really good idea to get your CFI, and then hopefully you can find a job instructing somewhere and build your time that way. And like I said, I think it's also a really great way to develop your skills as a pilot and your knowledge as well. Okay, so let's talk about the CFI timeline at ATP and how long this is going to take you. Well, I started CFI about 3 weeks ago, and I am currently endorsed and waiting to take my Checkride, which is scheduled for about a week and a half from today. So when you start CFI, you're going to first start with virtual online Zoom classes. You'll do those for 5 days, and they're pretty much all day, every day for those 5 days. And you just get blasted with information, and you're supposed to study outside of those as well. So again, very long days. As soon as you finish day 5, we had 1 day off for people who are out of state to fly into Utah, where we're doing it at our training center. And then we started in person the next day. So we had a 1 day break in between the Zoom classes and then when we started in person. And since we started in person, we've had about 2 weeks, and we get 6 hours in the right seat. And then we get our spin flight, and then we also get our mock check ride, and we have another 3 hours allotted for that. So that's all the time you have that's allotted to you. You can pay for more if you need it. But for me and for most people, if you're on top of your stuff, you're studying, and you've done pretty well throughout the program so far, you're most likely going to be able to pick up all the maneuvers and everything in the right seat. So from day one until now, it's been about 3 weeks. And then if I pass my check ride in 2 weeks, that will have been about just over a month from day one of CFI to actually getting my certificate, which is crazy. It definitely takes a lot of work, and I still have a lot that I need to study and make sure I'm really prepared before I actually have my check ride in about a week or two. And before you guys click off this video, I did want to make you aware that I am now doing online grounds and mocks, as well as 30-minute mentorship calls So if you're working towards your private pilot certificate or your commercial certificate, or you have a Checkride coming up and you want to do a mock, or you want me to just do grounds with you, kind of help you out in that way, or if you're looking to get into aviation and you don't have any family members and you don't know anything about it, I can do a little mentorship call with you, kind of help you out with picking a flight school, doing the most cost-effective training, and everything like that. So be sure to click on the link below if you're interested in that, and back to the video. Now, as far as the structure of CFI, I already told you how many flights we get and the flight time that's allotted to us. But basically, all of these flights are going to be in the right seat. So up until now in my training, I've done everything from the left seat, where I have my left hand on the yoke, and then I have my right hand on the throttle. And then you move over to the right seat for CFI, and you have your right hand on the yoke, left hand on the throttle, and it's also a completely different sight picture. So when you're coming in to land on the runway, I always felt like the nose was totally pointed left, but that's actually what it looks like when you're longitudinally aligned. So it's definitely weird getting used to things. For my first flight, we went out and we just worked on landings. We did all the performance, short field, soft field, slip to land, kind of everything that's in the ACS with regards to landing and traffic patterns and go arounds and all of that. And it went pretty well. It was definitely super weird getting used to it. The second flight, we went out and just did a bunch of maneuvers. My steep turns were a little rough, and we did pretty much most of the maneuvers, some of the CFI maneuvers. Third flight, we went out and we just did ground reference maneuvers and then came back and practiced landings. And then that fourth flight, I believe we just practiced landings, really just sharpening those, making sure I could hit my spot pretty much every time on the short field and the power off and stuff like that. And then we had my spin flight. The spin flight, honestly, was one of my most favorite flights I've done so far throughout training. We go up and we stall the plane. So stall is when you lose lift, and then you also have a yaw. And when you have a stall and a yaw and you're uncoordinated, you could get into a spin. So my instructor spun us to the left, and then he spun us to the right. He recovered both of them. Then I spun us to the left. I spun us to the right. I recovered both of them. And then he started the next spins, and he got us into them as though he were a student. And then I recovered those. So those were really fun. I didn't get motion sick. I know some of you guys will probably ask. I know some people do feel a little sick after them, obviously, but I don't know. I'm not super prone to that, but yeah, those were really fun flights. Okay, moving on. Now that I've talked to you kind of about the flying portion of CFI, I'm going to talk to you about the ground portion. This has been the most intense ground portion out of all my flight schools so far. Before, I was really studying for myself so I could retain the knowledge, so I could learn these things. And now I'm studying so that I know these things, but I also know how to teach it in a good and an effective way. So what they have you do during CFI, you have the Airman Certification Standards, and you're going to go look at every single task in the Airman Certification Standards, and you want to have either bought lesson plans and revised them and looked through them, or you actually make your own lesson plan for every single task. This is kind of what mine looks like right here. So I have this big binder, and I'm trying to make as many lesson plans as I possibly can before my check ride. So you can see I have this one on the learning process. You have all the fundamentals of instructing. These are things that aren't even really related to like the technical subject areas of flying. Has nothing to do with the airplane, airspace, regs. It's just things such as like the learning process or human behavior or effective communication and all those things. So those are brand new areas that you need to learn, and not only learn, but then learn how to teach it. So it's definitely time consuming. And you can see why it would get super overwhelming trying to do all these lesson plans every day and trying to make sure your knowledge is up to par as well. Okay, now as far as any advice I have for you guys, I don't know how valuable it is. I mean, I'm still very new to this, but after going through CFI for a couple weeks, if you have CFI coming up at ATP or you're an accelerated program, obviously you need to study a lot. Study as much as you possibly can. For me, and I'm not saying this works for everyone, but for me, I think it's called the Pomodoro method, at least when I'm at home, where I study for 25 minutes and then I take a 5-minute break and I don't think about anything I was just studying. And then I go back for 25 minutes, take a 5-minute break, 25 minutes, and then I'll take like a 20-minute break. That's always worked for me. But anyway, find something that works for you, because if you're trying to study 8 hours a day, it's hard, but you need to try to find something that works. The second thing I would say is, once you have lesson plans made or you bought them, whatever you've decided to do, really try to practice teaching them out loud as often as possible. I know for several of my lessons I've written it out and I've said, okay, this is gonna be a great lesson, you know, and then I go to actually teach it, or I teach my classmates and stuff, and it's terrible. The delivery is horrible, it sounded confusing, and so just really make sure you practice, especially everything that's in the technical subject areas, I would say. Really all of it, but yeah, just make sure you practice teaching a lot. But yeah, as of right now, that's pretty much everything that I have. I am currently endorsed. I have my Checkride scheduled for, I think it's the 13th of this month, so hopefully I pass. I'm definitely nervous for this one. I will get one proficiency flight, but I still need to study a lot and pick up all my ground knowledge. I feel like I know most things generally well, but again, it's like I was just saying, I don't know how confident I am in my teaching ability of all those things, but we're gonna work on it and we'll see how it goes. But thanks a ton for all of you who have subscribed. I really appreciate it. You guys are awesome. The channel keeps growing, so thank you so much. And if you have any questions, reach out to me, and safe flying, and I'll catch you next time.